Well, greetings and welcome to another episode of the Sovereign Lounge. We have your hosts, Round the World Man and Yamin Fauzi here to bring you more news, insights, and analysis from the world of investment migration, citizenship by investment, residency and by investment, and of course, naturalization. Now, today, we want to bring you some new information that Yamin has compiled on the ideal 3 best citizenships to have or acquire. What are these passports that you have in mind, Yamin? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, so before I'm gonna give you all the secrets out here, I think it makes sense to establish what are the criterias. So if you want to have 3 passports, the first most obvious criteria would be they all have to allow dual citizenship, so they cannot restrict the citizenship just to one. So that excludes many countries for this sort of ideal combination that are on paper or in the numbers maybe better than other certain members. I think this one is one of the first criteria. Then the other criteria is also is it a part of a settlement block or like freedom of movement rights? So that also will limit the countries very significantly. Then I think another criteria would be reputation, taxes, and the level of government interference into your life. And I have compiled now a list of 3 citizenships. So those of you guys who are following me on X, maybe you have seen the post back in the year. I have slightly changed my opinion on something, and which I'm going to explain to you in this part. So I think let's start. And
yes, absolutely. So the criteria there, if I was just going to do a quick rewind, is that it definitely has to allow for 2 or more citizenships per the kind of like legalities or constitutions or whatever you want to call it. You need to not be flying underneath the radar there. That's an important distinction there that I think a lot of our viewers should be aware of. So that's good. Now that we've covered that, absolutely, let's continue.
Yeah, so usually the top ranking passports are usually, if you look at the Henley Global Statistics, they're usually Singapore, Japan, and the UAE, just when it comes to visa-free travel. But all of these passports, they are not part of a settlement block, well, except the UAE one. They don't allow dual citizenship. So the best option to look first would be in Europe, in the continent of Europe, obviously, and because European citizenship, I mean, you can live in more than 25 countries. You have very strong travel. You can usually travel only with an ETA to the United States, Canada, Australia, freedom of movement in Europe, and also just lots of travel options visa free. So I have boiled it down to 2 contenders at the end, and I'm going to explain to you which one I would choose over. So one of the more obvious choices would be Switzerland, which I am. Here's my passport here for the people who don't know. So Switzerland is also part of the Schengen area. So as a Swiss citizen, I'm allowed to live in, let's say, Germany, in Spain, in Sweden, etc. So I have all the benefits of the Schengen region settlement scheme. Also, there are no worldwide taxes. When I leave the country for an indefinite period, I don't owe any taxes. The government doesn't really chase you down because you didn't pay taxes or you are or something else, so it's very chill, I would say. And Swiss citizens have a very good reputation. Wherever you go, we spend money, so we don't cause much problems. And so that's one of the good things about Swiss citizenship. However, I wouldn't take it in this dream combination. I'm going to explain to you why. There is only one citizenship that has a little bit, scores a little bit higher, and this would be the Irish citizenship. So why Irish citizenship? So Ireland, they have, when you look at I'm going to show you the graph here. Um, when it comes to visa-free travel, on paper, the exact same number. 175. These statistics usually vary from index to index, but let's say they are on paper the exact same. And
right, and so
they both
let me pause you. So for our viewers,
yeah.
When Yamin says index to index, things can vary. We have visaindex.com, which I believe is managed by Guide Consultants. You have the what is this, passportindex.com here, which is managed by Artin, and the Nomad Capital Index as well. Each one of these kind of like index and like kind of citizenship comparisons or passport comparisons, they're kind of using different criteria. And so that's one of the things that Yamin is trying to drive home here, is that right now he's referencing the Artin Index, but for the sake of his argument, he's going to assume that everybody's kind of showing these as basically the same. And so here we have Ireland on the left here, and Switzerland on the right.
Yeah. So on paper, when it comes to visa-free travel, you can go to the United States with an ETA. You can go to Australia with an ETA. You can go to basically every Latin American country that exists. When it comes to travel, no problem. Also, settlement rights in the European Union / Schengen, the same. So, and also reputation, similar. Both are relatively neutral. They're both not member of NATO. So Ireland is also a very neutral country. And also they have a good reputation worldwide. They don't really cause much problem. They don't have this colonial past attached to them because they have been colonized themselves. And so it's, and also taxes, as long as you do everything properly, they don't chase you down, they don't cause problems as soon as you deregister from the country.
Right.
But
so
there is
that's an important thing, though, that I want to pause you on, is that, in many cases, Switzerland is kind of considered to be kind of de facto EU, but officially not. And Ireland is, of course, a European Union member state, and does use the euro currency officially for some time. But they're not part of NATO. And so just like Switzerland is not part of NATO and not part of these kind of military alliances, I think that is an important thing. I think it's actually written into the Irish Constitution that, they're not really obliged to, jump into things militarily. So, I mean, when you're talking about the lens of citizenship, it does drift into politics at some level. And I think that's an important distinction to make, that this neutrality, even from a military perspective, is a thing there.
Absolutely, yeah. And it might also be, even though they're not part of NATO, for example, they still are under the umbrella of it. For example, like Switzerland is, if, let's say, if a hypothetical war would be, between, I don't know, let's say Russia invades Switzerland, for example, just a ridiculous example. I don't think the European Union and NATO would just stand by idle, And the same thing goes with Ireland, because it's in their literal backyard, and they are very territorial when it comes to this. And so don't get me wrong with this example. It's purely hypothetical. That's the best that came out from me. So now regarding these comparisons, why is Irish one better? And for one simple reason. Ireland is part of the common travel area. So that means that Ireland has settlement rights also in the United Kingdom. So that gives it access to two settlement blocks, the common travel area and the European Union. So it makes it slightly better for that reason, because it makes it then easier for an Irish citizen to claim UK citizenship at a later time, even expanding, the possibilities, the global mobility aspect that I keep talking about, to enhance this. And so this is why for the first passport on the three passport or citizenship combination, I would choose Ireland as the first strong contender for all of these reasons listed. Okay, so Chris, what do you think would be the next appropriate citizenship to get? I have
I
I've
have
been
I have
thinking
some
about.
thoughts. I love that you're asking my opinion on this because of course everybody's full of opinions when it comes to this topic, especially in this world of investment migration and naturalization. So honestly, I think that you'd probably pick something in Latin America, South America for maybe your number two. Um, that's my prediction. I honestly think that you'd probably go with something like an Argentina or a Chile, but that's just me throwing out some of my opinions. I'd love to hear
Sure, yeah.
what you have in mind. This is again a fascinating topic because again for all of our valued viewers, we're just talking about what Yamin sees as the three ideal this combo, this magic combo of the ideal situation. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, Yamin.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So before I'm gonna talk about the second citizenship that I would take on is there are two other large settlement blocks on this planet, and one of which is the GCC, the Gulf Council Cooperation, and the other one is the Mercosur in South America. So, when you look at the GCC, excuse me here. So if you look at the GCC, these countries, they are all very strong. I mean, the United Arab Emirates is a very strong passport. Saudi Arabia, these are all rich countries which you can access once you're a citizen. However, the problem with the GCC is that it's practically impossible, first of all, to get the citizenship. And second of all, none of these states allow dual citizen. So they are out of the equation for now.
Now,
And
I want to pause you for our viewers here because we have some fine print that shows up on the screen share. When Yamin's talking about the GCC here, he means Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Oman. I just want to make sure for any audio transcripts that we're getting these countries listed here, and I definitely want to make an attention and draw attention to the Kingdom of Kuwait, which is of course borders Iraq and Saudi Arabia, because Kuwait in recent history has actually threatened and in some situations canceled some Kuwaiti nationals, some people that are essentially, there have been Kuwait citizens their entire lives, but they legally acquired a second or third citizenship. And Kuwait has found out about that. And the government or the kingdom has essentially canceled their citizenship, and in other cases threatening to do so until they can provide sufficient documentation. And that's one of those things where, going back to your original criteria, it is a little bit more of a threat point when you are talking about some of these GCC countries. I mean, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this specific example that I'm talking about of Kuwait canceling people, but it's not ancient history. It's a very recent thing, and it's something that I think our viewers should be aware of because we do try to stay informed on these topics.
Yeah, so I remember about the Kuwaiti thing, and so this is one of the criteria, as I mentioned, the government doesn't care too much about what you're doing. And I think this is one of the very few times where a government actually enforces, this sort of stuff where they're just like, nope, we're going to revoke your citizenship. You already have another one. Goodbye. Because, there are many nationals, let's say, from other countries where de facto it's illegal, but the government, they don't care that much. They can't enforce it. Or if you just stay under the radar, nobody's going to cause too much problems. But Kuwait has actually enforced it. So, yeah, even though these countries are also entirely tax-free, again, dual citizenship, impossible. Getting the citizenship in the first place is also almost impossible. I'm saying almost because there is very unique situations where you can get one, but for 99.9%, it's impossible.
Yeah, like many countries, I believe United Arab Emirates has some sort of substantial contribution option that
correct. Yeah,
you can I from what I understand, because again the Emirates is a federation, and each emirate has some say in the affairs of the federation as a whole. I'm under the impression, although not briefed on the topic, that somebody representing one of the emirates can essentially vouch for this exceptional contribution situation, and then you could become a citizen that way. But again, that's one of these things that's written into the constitution of a number of countries, and it's kind of a gray area about what is an exceptional contribution and what are the exact steps to actually take. I think maybe countries like Croatia and Serbia also have similar exceptional contribution programs. But again, I'm not super briefed on this topic because it's a very serious gray area in a lot of places.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. That's how it is. And so for that reason, yeah, we go to the continent of South America, and there is this like settlement block called the Mercosur region, and yeah, I'm going to show you guys here the quick map here. So you can't see it properly, so I'm going to highlight it here a bit more. There we go. So this is a map of South America, and the blue states are full member states of the Mercosur region, and the light blue one are associated members but not full members. Then there's Venezuela, who has been suspended, and some observer states here. So the full members of Mercosur, they have the same rights similar to as European countries have in the Schengen region. So that means if you are a citizen of Uruguay, you can settle, let's say, in Paraguay, you can settle in Brazil, Bolivia, or Argentina as well. Same goes for all these full member states in the respective territories. And all of these countries have really good passports. If you look at these, all of these, I think with the exception of Bolivia, have Schengen visa-free access, And this is a huge territory if you think about it. I mean, Brazil and Argentina, they are, I think, in the top 10 largest countries in the world. And and also diverse landscape. You have the rainforests in Brazil. You have the Patagonia region here in Argentina. You have the Andes Mountains, Bolivia. So this is larger, I guess, than even the European Union, just from the size where you can actually settle. So it also gives a lot of options to invest, to reside, if you want to be more like on the laid back side in maybe Patagonia or more in the rainforest. I don't know if that's your jam. Or you can also have like this big city vibes in Buenos Aires, in Sao Paulo, in Rio, on varying degrees, but also more like stable and I would say a little bit laid back, like Uruguay, Montevideo, or Wild West Paraguay. So if you're a citizen there, you have a lot of movement.
Well,
and
I want to pause it right there,
yeah.
Since you're kind of talking about some of these features when you're talking about this Mercosur area. I will say that a big portion of this area, this territory, including most of Paraguay, or actually pretty much all of Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and most of Chile. Although Chile's not a full member, but the point is that you have reverse seasons from the north. And, that was a big selling point for me in choosing Argentina, is this reverse seasons. I mean, sure, there's obviously the mountains and Patagonia, like you talked about, but it's not just mountains with snow sometimes. It's, reverse seasons. So if you are, interested in spending time in the north and you enjoy either the winter or the summer in the north some of the time, you can have that kind of reverse season situation in much of this, the southern cone at least, where you can get down, way into the sub-Antarctic if you really, really want to, in Ushuaia, for example, in Argentina. And that was a big selling point for me in choosing Argentina. It was the reverse seasons.
Yeah, so that's also a big selling point. Yeah, you can spend summers in the Mediterranean, and then the winters in the southern cone, with the temperate climate or even the warm climate, depending which region of South America you go. And also, it is very far away from all of these conflict, troublesome regions. None of the of the missiles, like the intercontinental ballistic missiles, they can reach the southern cone, especially when you go further down to Uruguay, Argentina, and southern Brazil. So the threat of a nuclear winter is very, very small, so it's a good plan B, once shit really hits the fan in the northern hemisphere, you can go down there. So I would actually add one of these passports. So I have boiled it down to two of the passports. They're almost the same. And I mean, when it comes to passport strength, with citizenship, that's a different story. They are very similar, and I would choose either Argentina or Brazil. And I think that's a very subjective thing. That's which one is better. Brazil, you have more the tropical vibes, you have more the rainforest vibes. But also a little bit temperate when you go down south. When you go in the Santa Clarita region, then it feels German. They have like the city of Blumenau, which is a German name, very German inspired city. You have nice beaches there. But also when you go to Argentina, you have Buenos Aires with the very European big city vibe, but also the temperate climate, the mountains. So I think I would give it a slash. So Argentina/Brazil. The only difference here is with the visa-free travel is that Brazil has a little bit more visa-free access than what's it called, Argentina, and also they have so they have.
Well, I want to pause you here. I want to pause you here because I want to just for our valued viewers that are following along with us this far, essentially what you're saying is Argentina/Brazil, and what you're getting at is there's some caveats there from your perspective, and I want to just drill down into some of those caveats because there's language blocks as well. On the Sovereign Lounge here, we cover things like these kind of trade alliances or political alliances, or in some cases like Ireland is not an official NATO member, these military alliances. But the thing is, there's also language blocks as well. And one of the things that really stands out to me, since you mentioned visa-free access, is also language blocks, because Argentina is, of course, a Spanish-speaking country predominantly. You do have some German-speaking people there as well. But the truth is that Brazil ranked a little bit lower for me when I was evaluating these territories, these countries myself, because Portuguese isn't as valuable outside of Brazil or Portugal itself as Spanish. And then also drilling down into the visa-free access, Argentina, last I checked, these citizens do have visa-free access to a large Spanish-speaking country such as Mexico. Whereas Brazil, last I checked, does not have, these citizens don't have visa-free access to Mexico. And I know this was a big situation that came up during the time of the COVID pandemic, or whatever you prefer to call it, because a lot of Argentina citizens didn't like the policies that were in place in Argentina, and they just got up and left and went to Mexico, but they were able to use their Spanish-speaking skills, and they had visa-free access. Mexico was an open country during that period of time in 2020, 2021. It was one of the few open countries in the world, and a lot of these Argentinian people just said, hey, I'll just set up shop in Mexico for however long I need to. Maybe some of them just decided to stay indefinitely. And that, I think, is a really important distinction, is that linguistic blocks also in conjunction with visa-free access. And I think it's something that a lot of people overlook.
Absolutely. That's so this is why I put them both like in this slash, because they're both part of BRICS. I mean, Brazil being the founder of BRICS, but Argentina is now parts of the BRICS member states. And so it's I think it really depends on what you're looking for. If you already know Spanish, then it's much easier, to just plug and play in Argentina. You can both get birth tourism in Argentina and in Brazil. So I would choose either of the one. I think I have a slight tendency towards Argentina as well. But Brazil is also a very, very strong contender in that part of the region. But one of these
absolutely.
two definitely.
And
second.
I know people that have decided upon Brazil for themselves. I've met people or know people. And, another big thing that does stand out that is a recent development, and these things do change sometimes, over time. Brazil citizens, or actually USA citizens have recently lost visa-free access to Brazil, but I believe they still have visa-free access to Argentina. And I'm not sure exactly all the wheels in motion that happen with that for USA to be dropped from Brazil. It could be part of this whole BRICS alignment, like you said, but it was a weird development because I know up until just maybe a year ago, USA citizens had visa-free access to Brazil.
Yeah. All right, and so we conclude with the final one, the secret citizenship. So I think the elephant in the room is we need access to one large country that is the most sought after, and this would be the United States. However, we're not going to use American citizenship. We are also not going to use Canadian citizenship, and I'm going to explain to you why. So if you have watched one of our other episodes, we're going to talk about the Compact of Free Association. You can check this one in our channel. And the Compact of Free Association, in short, is a part of some member states in the Pacific, like 3 of them, Marshall Islands, Palau, and the Federated States of Micronesia, are part of the Compact of Free Association. What does that mean? They have, all of these citizens, they have the right to reside, to work, and to retire in the United States without being a US citizen. They can live indefinitely in the in the United States without the need of a visa. And I would choose the Marshall Islands passport on that, or the citizenship on that regard, because again, like, you're under the umbrella of the United States militarily, because this is part of the Compact of Free Association. And also you can live in the United States for indefinitely. You don't need an investor visa. You don't need an EB-5. You don't need a green card lottery or marry a citizen. You can just come in and go as you like. And so this is the final citizenship that I would take on this exact route. And also because, the Marshall Islands, they don't impose taxes on foreign sourced income as well. And they're not as hawkish as the US IRS. And also they don't bother you as much as the Canadian government does, even though Canadian citizens, they have much more relaxed visa regulations to the United States than other countries. So this would be my final pick for this combination. And to give my thoughts or words on this, my final words on this combination, which I think is encouraging a lot of these people, is that you can actually get all of these citizenships. It's not impossible to become a citizen of all of these in your lifetime. I mean, if you stay your time in Argentina 2 years, you have the citizenship. 5 years in Ireland, or you marry a citizen from there, you get it faster. Same goes with Marshall Islands, so a total time of maybe, let's say, give or take 15 years, and you have all of this citizenship. And that will be, in my opinion, the best, the dream combination, to be as sovereign as possible, with as many rights as possible, and as little commitments as possible.
Well, yeah, that's a fantastic combo you've presented with us here. I mean, I really appreciate your detailed analysis on this. Well, I don't have any other questions for you at this point. I think this is a great topic that, of course, will evolve over time. We might have to circle back to this ideal 3 or best, whatever you want to call it, in the future. But I think this has been another fantastic episode of the Sovereign Lounge. Yamin Fauzi, thank you so much for your insights and analysis. We'll see you next time here on the Sovereign Lounge. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys, and see you later.